let's take a look at these clutches. These are identical, just got one flipped over. I want to give you a little peek at this. The way you get these off of the machine is these two screws here, which you can see I had to encourage off. There's a little oil baffle here. That's got some rust on it. That is even eaten through. Then there's this little guy. That nut was seized on something fierce, and I got impatient while waiting for the proper socket. This little guy on Amazon. The idea is, this cost me less than $10, that you spare the nut and don't use a chisel. I used heat, fire, explosives, and I was able to finally chisel that guy off. In the end, I decided I didn't want to use this clutch anyways. So I went back to the original clutch and started taking it apart. On this side of the clutch, you'll see you've got 4 other screws. These actually hold on to 4 other posts like these, but that are threaded. And if you release these, you can take this clip out here, and then the whole clutch assembly comes apart. There is a retaining ring somewheres. Where are you at? Oh, he's right here. It was broken off of this one and inside the engine case, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Thought it was a big washer, and then I thought, wow, that looks like a piston ring. These 2 ends were broken off, but ended up just being this clip here. I think that keeps this from going in too far. Kind of seats it at some point so it doesn't go in too far. So there's also that. So I would recommend taking this clip off and then slowly backing these out. Alternatively, you can back these out all the way and then take the clip off by using a couple screwdrivers. Put a screwdriver in here and push this forward. You can see I actually just pushed that and popped that out. And use a small screwdriver to pry it. I actually don't want to take this out, so I'm going to put that back in and leave that one alone. These springs right here, there's a little piece of metal that comes out that goes into the end of the spring, and then there's a little hole in the side of these posts been drilled out that the spring seats in. I believe those will be put on very last in the process. You can just kind of work them into the hole. This one was a lot cleaner. Not after you get this tied on here, you pry one of these in so it sits in this groove here. Lock washer, I guess I'll call it. There's the baffle, a lot better condition. So there's the outside ring. I'll just move this inside ring as well. And then we have these clutch plates and what are they called? Drives. This sits over this, and there's springs on these posts. So you don't lose these springs. These are a bit smaller than the external springs that you can see. So, and then it's just going to be taking these apart. This oil, although it's dirty, saved these internals from rusting. So I'll get these all cleaned up. And get these oiled with fresh oil. You want to soak those for a while. And then this last steel drive here has these posts on them. And the back has a little bit of a head on it. And you can actually see down in where they'll bottom out, make a little mark in these 4 areas. All right, and we've got this gear here, which this retaining clip here helps keep from going past that point, I believe. And I wish I knew the names of all these things. I could look them up on my book, but this is just to help you and me get it back together properly. Of course, these clutches work with centrifugal force. We want to get these all cleaned up so they move freely with the centrifugal force. And then there is the housing there. This is all grimy, going to get that cleaned up. So, reverse order, right? I'm going to get this cleaned up off camera and show you the final product. But just remember that these longer posts here are the ones that go through the keyhole here, and the threaded posts are the ones that go through the springs. And then on the other side you could see, as this gets close, you'd be able to put back on the washer and the screw to hold those in. I think I'll use a vise or a clamp and get that put in. I don't have a tool for this. And then get these threaded back in to hold these down. That'll give me more room to work with, so I can get the clutch discs in. You can see how these go over the gear here. I don't think I'm sharing any new information with you, but if you took your clutch apart and you're like, yeah, how do I get it back together? Maybe following this will be helpful. And if you stick around to the end, you'll see a nice, pretty, clean, used clutch. So that'll go on there. And of course, if I had those screws in already, this will be pulled down quite a bit. And then it'll just be getting it the rest of the way down while I work this retainer ring around the outside, and of course this retaining ring around that one. Give a quick little view of this layout here. This is what we're working with here. This will give you the proper names of the things I can never remember the names of. We've got the springs. This guy's called the drive plate. It's calling this little guy the oil filter plates. I call it a baffle. Then we've got the nut and the lock washer, clutch plates, friction discs. There's the tool and other tools I'm not using. If you want to pause it on this and take a look at disassembly, you can do that as well. And assembly as well. One final overview. Alright, here's the final clean product. I've got the lock washer and the nut and the oil baffle down in there, just resting, and so I keep the parts together. This is it all cleaned up. In order to compress the drive piece in there, I used a large gear puller, this guy, where I hooked the hooks around the bottom there, and then drove this to the top. This wasn't on, and none of the discs were on. It was resting on that drive, that initial piece you put in. I was able to compress it and then get these screws on and hold it in place. That made it much easier to get the friction discs and the drive plates in, and then this ring was very easy to put in.